Radio Zelda is now transmitting.
Oh, he's playing. He's playing, I knew it.
Just a reminder, 72 hours remaining until the end of the world.
What you're currently watching is a commercial for The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Unlike most commercials for Nintendo 64 games, this one's got a really bleak and disturbing atmosphere. Shot like a found footage film, we witness a series of unsettling events from the perspectives of various reporters. Throughout the video, we see police cars racing through city streets, helicopters darting through the air, and people comforting one another. We also see a timer in the bottom right corner of the screen that continues to count down. Starting at only 72 hours, the timer gradually falls down to just 14 minutes. But before the timer can hit 0, the footage fades to black. If you have any knowledge at all on Majora's Mask, you can probably guess what's happening here. In the game, you're given 3 days to save the world before the moon comes crashing down into Earth. That exact scenario is what's being replicated in the commercial. This not only explains the timer in the commercial, which equates to 3 days, but it also explains why all the people in this ad are running around frantically. These people are living out the last few hours of their lives before total lunar annihilation. Rated E for everyone, folks. There are quite a few strange aspects of this commercial that I feel are worth mentioning. For starters, throughout the commercial we keep hearing transmissions from Radio Zelda. They keep listeners posted on the current situation and remind people how much time is left. They even take a caller at one point.
You're listening to Radio Zelda,
Night's falling, this isn't good.
and with less than 6 hours left,
He's almost got it.
I think we should take some phone calls. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead. We're listening.
I just...
Believe in the boy.
Mom, I love you. And Dad, I miss you.
Another oddity in this commercial is the number of people watching gameplay of Majora's Mask. You'd think that with the end of the world quickly approaching, watching someone play a video game would be last on their list of priorities. Yet throughout the commercial we see a bunch of different people watching the game on their TVs. Near the end of the ad, we can even see a bar full of people watching gameplay of Majora's Mask. The last unusual thing that I noticed in this commercial are the several references to an unnamed character. They always refer to this person as he or him, and no name is ever given.
He's playing, I knew it.
He's gonna make it. I know he's gonna make it.
You think he's gonna make it? I hope so. He's almost got it.
Based on the context of this commercial, you might assume that they're referring to Link. Like the people here are supposed to represent the people of Termina as they all root for Link to save the world from total destruction. It would explain why all these people are watching gameplay of Majora's Mask like their life depends on it. Still, it doesn't really explain how or why beating a video game can stop the moon from falling. Speaking of the moon, why is it falling in our world anyway? Is there like a real-life counterpart to Skull Kid running around and causing chaos? Is that why police cars and ambulances are dashing through the streets? What exactly is going on here? Honestly, who knows? I'm probably reading way too deep into this. I mean, it's just a commercial. I doubt anyone on the production team thought too hard about the story of an ad for a children's video game. Except, that's the funny part. There is a surprising amount of depth to the story behind this commercial. Think back to those Radio Zelda transmissions we hear throughout the ad. If we go to radiozelda.com, we can find a record label. Sorry. If we use the Wayback Machine and go to radiozelda.com, we can find a website full of various articles. From parallel universes to obscure scientific organizations to prophets warning about the end of the world, there is so much to cover here. And in case you have any doubts regarding the legitimacy of this website, they list Nintendo of America as an official sponsor. On top of that, Radio Zelda was even mentioned in issue 137 of Nintendo Power. So this is like real. Welcome to another episode in a series where we examine elements of horror and other spooky stuff we can find in non-horror games. In today's episode, we're talking about The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. But before we jump into Majora's Mask, we have got to talk about this weird and unsettling rabbit hole that starts with Radio Zelda. You're tuned in to Radio Zelda. Our mission, to venture out into the crazy world and deliver breaking news straight from the street to your home. In case you haven't heard, there's some wild stuff going on right now. An organization called Dramoa discovered a parallel universe a while ago, and it has the entire planet going nuts. This tidbit comes from the About section at the Radio Zelda website, and it also serves as a good start to this story. If we switch on over to the Read tab, we can see all of the articles posted by Radio Zelda. The very first article posted on Radio Zelda was posted on August 21st, 2000, and it's titled, "A Parallel World is Discovered." This is Radio Zelda, keeping you in the know with some breaking news that sounds like it's out of a sci-fi novel. Research organization Dramoa has been conducting extra-dimensional experimentation since 1967. Bizarre as it may seem, scientists down in the Antarctic Field Lab have stumbled upon a universe parallel to our own beloved Earth. This is no joke. The article goes on to explain that on August 14th at 10:26 AM, a cross-dimensional rift was formed between this Earth and another dimension. Before the rift formed, scientists at Dramoa were conducting an experiment that was interrupted by an earthquake. This ultimately resulted in an unexplained reaction that created a connection between this world and the other. The head scientist at Dramoa, Dr. Taran Rugeshi, said that the other side of the rift should have shown nothing but snow and ice. However, when he peered into this parallel world, he saw a dense forest with bursts of light coming in and out of view. At this point in time, there are many things that we still don't know yet about this parallel world. The article ends with a few questions. Can humans go through the rift and check out this other world? How many more worlds are out there that we don't know about? Is there other life in that world? Are they peaceful or hostile? Are they human or something else? Can they get through to our world? On August 22nd, another article was posted, titled, "Good News and Bad News." The good news is that someone with proper genetic code might be able to interact with this parallel universe. The bad news? Our world is connected to the parallel one on every level, and their moon is going to crash into their world on October 26th, 2000. In this article, it's explained that the scientists at Dramoa have discovered that someone with a specific genetic code should be able to influence this parallel universe. The catch is that this special genetic code is extremely rare. Finding this rare individual, known as the One, is humanity's only hope in preventing the moon from crashing into Earth. At the end of the article, Radio Zelda recommends checking out zscience.com for a more detailed report on the situation. This website is connected directly to Dramoa, so it's a great source for info on the parallel world. If you try and visit ZScience today, you'll be redirected to the Nintendo website. Funny that they kept the domain name. You'll have to use the Wayback Machine to see the real website. Here on ZScience, we can find a lot of information regarding the mysterious Dramoa organization. Over on the About section, we can find this piece of text that reads, "Joint Research of Alternate Mondial Occurrences and Astroplanology was founded in 1967 to provide an open forum for experimentation and discussion of issues in magnetospheric physics and astronomy, with a primary focus in magnetohydrodynamic research. Astroplanology, of course, has always been a crucial component of the workload at Dramoa. Thanks in part to a large grant from an anonymous investment group in 1992, Dramoa formed the world's first research team solely dedicated to the study of particle physics in relation to the possible existence of higher dimensional space." The News tab on their site is full of news articles, similar in style to the reports on Radio Zelda. In fact, a majority of Dramoa's discoveries are covered by Radio Zelda, so we'll spend most of our time over there. The main difference between Radio Zelda and ZScience articles is that ZScience goes way more in depth with its content. For example, their article covering their discovery of parallel universes mentions particle acceleration experiments, multi-nucleon absorption, and dark matter experimentation. I don't even know what the hell any of that is. Over on the In the Field tab, we can see different types of experiments that Dramoa is currently working on. Particle physics in higher dimensional space, nonlinear chaos classification, speckle interferometry advancements, you know, the basics. Their sponsorship info page shows off a few of their proud sponsors, which includes Nintendo of America. So, this site is legit as well. The related resources page contains a list of Dramoa affiliates and other sites of interest. Stuff like Discovery.com, National Geographic, Scientific American, and other science-related sites. There's a lot of super in-depth info to parse through, so I've got a link to the website in the description if you want to take a look at it yourself. And if you have been poking around the site, or if you've just been listening along, you might have noticed something familiar about the names of the Dromoa scientists. For example, look at Dr. Taran Rugeshi, Dromoa's chief engineer on the Dimension Data project. The name Taran comes from an NPC in The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, while his last name Rugeshi is an anagram for Shigeru, likely a reference to Shigeru Miyamoto. Other notable scientists include Dr. Diego Romani, Dr. Gero Stone, Dr. Kara Awa, and Dr. Takeko. The name Diego Romani is clearly a reference to Romani and Romani Ranch. The name Gero Stone is a reference to Don Gero and potentially the Stone Mask. The name Takeko is an anagram for the Ice Witch Kotake. The name Kara Awa is another anagram for Arakawa, which is a reference to Minoru Arakawa, the founder and former president of Nintendo of America. This doesn't really have much bearing on the story being told here, but I think it's a pretty cute Easter egg. Before we head back to Radio Zelda, take a look at this. The weird shape here is how you navigate through Z-Science. Clicking on the different dots along this line will take you to different pages. After looking at it for a while, I realized that it kind of looks like a constellation. So I pulled up a list of constellations to see if any of them matched, and I managed to find one. The shape on Z-Science looks nearly identical to the Cassiopeia constellation. It's really cool, but I couldn't tell you why this specific constellation was chosen for the website. Initially, I thought that maybe it was chosen because it kind of looks like an M if you turn it on its side. However, I did some digging and I think I might know why this constellation was chosen. So get this, the 5 brightest stars in Cassiopeia all have names. Okay, so let's start with the ones on the left. There's Sagan and Rukba. On the right, there's Shadar and Kaf. But what about that one in the middle? The one where Z-Science's homepage sits. That star is Navi. Interesting. Back on Radio Zelda, they've posted another article revealing that Dromoa has begun their search for the One. This individual will need to meet a lengthy list of requirements, such as unique speech patterns, superb hand-eye coordination, high red blood cell count, keen eyesight, above average lung capacity, extraordinary patience, strong artistic inclination, a propensity to bruise, and pronounced intelligence. The article encourages readers to head on over to Z-Science to take a quiz that will tell you if you are the one. But sadly, this quiz can no longer be accessed. I like to imagine that it was just a lengthy personality quiz, and at the end of it, there was a very small chance that you would get the result of being the one. I also like to think that maybe this quiz was part of the auditioning process for the Legend of Zelda movie. Like me personally, if I'm a director and I'm casting a Link in my movie, he's gotta be at least a 90% match for the one. You know what I mean? On September 1st, we got another article from Radio Zelda regarding a strange clip sent in from a fan. The clip comes from a listener who was up late watching TV. She noticed a peculiar broadcast and was able to record the last few minutes of the show once she realized something was off. While a majority of the videos on Radio Zelda are completely unavailable, this clip was luckily saved by this user and uploaded to YouTube. So let's have a look.
Right now, you should call Juanita Psychic Red Hotline. You have problem with your loving life? You call me, I do the psychic and tell you what your problem is. Then you too can have a loving life as hot as me, Juanita. Tss, yeah, baby, I'm a red hot one.
This is great. Juanita's first caller is a man named Donald. He plans on proposing to his girlfriend this weekend and asks Juanita to read his future. But when she attempts to see Donald's future via crystal ball, this happens.
Let's ask the crystal ball. Okay, Don, this girl, her name is Susie. I am now looking into the future. I'm gonna look into the future and see if you are married. And, oh no, There is no future. Everything is dark for everybody, including Juanita. Okay?
Okay. No, what do you mean everything is?
I told you, I'm looking into the future, and everything is dark and empty. I tell you, the crystal ball does not lie. Okay, bye-bye, next call.
Juanita then abruptly hangs up on Donald and connects with another caller. This caller, named Tammy, asks Juanita for a tarot reading as she would like to know what's going to be happening next month. The tarot reading doesn't go very well.
Okay, Tammy would like to know what the next month has in store for her. So... Oh no, that's not good. Death. Nasty card.
I have a friend who's a tarot card reader, and she told me that the death card doesn't mean I'm gonna die or anything. Just means like rebirth and stuff, right?
No, it means you're going to die. Sorry, let's look at another card and see more into the future. End of the world. That is bad.
What does that one mean?
What do you think it means, Tammy? The end of the world!
In spite of her theatrics, it seems like Juanita really knows her stuff. If Jermoa can't find the one, things will really play out like she predicted. On the 6th and the 14th of September, things finally started to change for the better. Radio Zelda reported that Jermoa had located 4 potential candidates that could be the one. This news couldn't have arrived at a better time, as a report on September 13th revealed that the moon has become much larger than usual. The report mentions that people, now extremely restless, have gathered in droves outside of Jermoa research facilities. Hopefully, by raking in some potential candidates for the one, their anxieties will be alleviated. For now. Though, even if they were able to relax just a little bit, the peace wouldn't last long before someone came along to stir the pot. Later on September 14th, Radio Zelda would post another article that includes a clip sent from an anonymous source. This clip shows an interview with the infamous Don Johansson, everybody, professional doubter and president of the Society of Creative and Knowledgeable Skeptics, aka SOX, an organization that's been around for almost 600 years. SOX has recently put out a press release refuting Jermoa's findings of a parallel universe, claiming that Jermoa is just a bunch of washed up fringe scientists trying to get attention. But this interview is golden. The interviewer in this clip takes it upon herself to reveal some of SOX's prior takes. For example, the founder of SOX believed that the Earth is flat. Another correspondent from 1860 disagrees with Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. And yet another dispatch, this one from Don Johansson herself, denounces the cloning of mammals. They've got quite the track record. While we can't watch the video ourselves, it looks like the interview gets pretty heated once the interviewer starts to point out all of SOX's flaws. In one of the photos on Radio Zelda, Johansson can be seen choking out the interviewer. Jesus Christ. Yet another article was posted later that day, and this one spotlights Binky Pinkerson, an urban survivalist who hosts the Survive with Binky GeoCities website. Here we find that Binky also believes that the world will end on October 26th. Let's see what Binky has to say about it.
Well, folks, I hope you haven't sold off all your Y2K rations on eBay, because something really big is a-brewing. Mark my words, come October 26, 2000, there are only going to be 2 types of people left standing. Those who are safely snuggled away in their bachelor pad bunkers, and those who just be begging for a spot in your highly fortified 1-bedroom abode.
Binky's patented urban survivalist course teaches students a variety of useful skills such as fortifying your flat efficiently, Allen wrench weaponry, the art of making masks, and K-rations, cockroaches, and other tempting treats. It's all pretty standard stuff, I think. There's a lot of questionable stuff here, sure, but the one thing that really got my attention was the slot between 1:30 and 2 p.m., the art of making masks. The accompanying text reads as follows.
Possibly the most useful items for any survivalist is his or her collection of masks. Sure, you could buy them from the creepy mask guy who lives in the village, but why bother when you can construct them from things lying around in any common kitchen? Garbage bags, Jif jars, Even equal packets can be put to good use when you're making a mask.
As if the art of making masks wasn't an already unusual inclusion, Binky even makes reference to a creepy mask guy who lives in the village. This is no doubt a reference to the Happy Mask Salesman. Is it possible that he somehow managed to move through the rift that connects our reality to the game world? Who knows, but if anyone were able to pull it off, it would definitely be him. Maybe he's even got a special mask that allows him to do that. On September 18th, Radio Zelda would report on another odd GeoCities website called The End Times, hosted by Patrick and Meg O'Connell. Just like with Binky, Patrick and Meg also believe that the world will end on October 26th. The duo has even provided evidence that proves without a doubt the world will end. On the Evidence of the End page, we can see that Patrick and Meg have provided 3 main pieces of evidence. The first comes from Nostradamus and his famous book of prophecies. If you've never heard of Nostradamus or this book, all you really need to know for now is that the book is full of predictions for the future. To put it simply, some people believe that Nostradamus has successfully predicted various wars and tragedies throughout history, while others believe that this guy was just out of his mind, or that he made his predictions so vague that they could be applied to multiple instances of tragedy. Patrick and Meg seem to be firm believers in the words of Nostradamus. They cite the following text as their first piece of evidence that the world will end.
Very near to Osh, Lector, and Miran. No, Meg seems to believe that these towns might be in New Jersey. A great orb in the sky for 3 nights will fall. A very stupendous and marvelous event will happen, and all the earth will tremble.
So, first of all, these towns are in France, not New Jersey. Secondly, that's not quite how the quote goes. In the book it says that a great fire will fall from the sky for 3 nights, not an orb. Their second piece of evidence comes from a notable apocalypse dates and occasions calendar that illustrates the Feast of Fall's final harvest corresponds to October 26th. And their final piece of evidence comes from this book with a long-ass title, so I'm not gonna read it. In chapter 162 of volume 42, we can find this text that reads, "Beware, the moon will fall." So, yeah. Basically irrefutable evidence that we're all gonna die. Things aren't all doom and gloom though. At the bottom of this site, Patrick offers a glimmer of hope.
Oh, almost forgot. Meg found this little tidbit of hope buried in the final verse of an ancient revival song, thought to have been chanted by the Druids. Thy force thou strong shall be stricken, shattered and dispersed, by one whose face calms rivers, and whose voice lulls lunar gods to slumber. Could be a good thing, I guess.
I like that Patrick is so amped about the world potentially ending that he almost forgets to mention that it could be saved. Also, Meg, come on bro, what are we doing? Not gonna name the artist or the song? Dude, I've been listening to the same shit for the past 3 months, I need some new artists. On September 20th, Radio Zelda reported on a horrifying phenomenon. Somehow, all around the world, an image of a mask has been manifesting. Radio Zelda received news of the first mask sighting 2 days ago. A local news crew in Albion, Ohio took amazing aerial photographs of an image resembling a mask which was burned into the cornfields of 4th-generation farmer Adam Baker. This mask, which we know as Majora's Mask, has been spotted in Ireland, Sri Lanka, Brazil, and even on numerous billboards in America. Things get real meta when Radio Zelda comments on how this mask is used as a design element on the website. When Radio Zelda staff tried visiting the office of their site designer, they found that the building had been condemned and deemed uninhabitable over a month ago. Creepy. Things get even weirder as this phenomenon hasn't been reported on at all by Dramoa over at Z-Science. Over there, crickets. What the hell is going on? These masks also reportedly leave people with an overwhelming feeling of dread and foreboding. It's like they're harbingers of the moon, constantly reminding people that time is running out. On the following day, we learn just a bit more about this mysterious mask. Radio Zelda reports on another GeoCities website hosted by Jeremy Hogarth. Over on Hogarth's homepage of Hidden History, we can find this month's topic of interest: what's behind the Mask of El Jomara? According to Hogarth, the mask was first referenced in Dr. Philip Asusa's Legends, Myths, and Mysteries of the Nile Valley. In this document, Asusa states that the mask was discovered by the Knights Templar in 1237 AD. Asusa's source is an old papyrus scroll with the history of the Knights Templar inscribed on it. Asusa writes that a Templar knight met a merchant in the village of El Jomara. There, the knight received a strange mask in exchange for a small bag of soot, which was worth a lot at the time. Asusa adds that the scroll mentions the mask having many powers. One of these abilities is described as Influence of the Sphere. Interesting. Outside of this scroll, Asusa has not found any other record mentioning this mask. Information regarding its origin or current location are completely unknown. Soon after Dr. Asusa's book was published, he passed away and his mythical papyrus scroll was never recovered. However, his work inspired many other researchers to search for references to this mask in various historical records. What follows on the bottom of this website is a timeline of potential references to the Mask of El Jomara. Let's take a look at the timeline. Starting in 9000 BC, Hogarth believes that the Sphinx was modeled after the Mask of El Jomara. In 1237 AD, we see the story about the Knights Templar. Then, in 1307 AD, the Knights Templar were captured and the mask was taken from them. This mask was seized by King Philip IV of France, and in 1366 AD, King Philip had his most cherished belongings hidden away so that no man may ever lay hands or eyes upon them again. And after that, the trail for the mask kind of just goes cold, yet Hogarth has some ideas about where it may have gone, like, being in the hands of the Illuminati, or the Beatles.
The Beatles tape Please Please Me. The Fab Four records a musically dull song with rather pathetic lyrics. Somehow, it mysteriously catapults to the top of the charts. During this early stage of their career, how is one to explain the incredible popularity of this band even though they border on being totally talentless? Success by mystical means cannot be ruled out.
What?
The Beatles released the Magical Mystery Tour album. On the cover of the album, the Beatles are shown wearing an assortment of strange-looking masks, and apparently, Paul McCartney is the Walrus. While the album is clearly a warning to those who might dare to investigate the Beatles and the Jomara mask connection, the album also proves to be a huge financial success. The Beatles by this point are obviously relishing the huge influence on the music industry and popular culture as a whole. Clearly, the influence of the sphere may be at work yet again.
What?
Apollo 11 supposedly landed on the moon. Yeah, sure it did. And suddenly Susan was cancelled for being too funny.
What are you talking about? The last thing on Hogarth's timeline is the mask on Mars, photographed by NASA's Viking orbiter. There's no accompanying text for this one, so I'm just gonna assume that Hogarth thinks the mask is somehow on Mars now. Okay, sure. Whatever. Oh, also, I should mention that later this day, Jermoa had located 2 more potential candidates for the One. This brings us up to 6 people who could possibly be the One. On September 29th, Radio Zelda reported that even more masks were popping up all over the world, similar to the one spotted in their September 20th report. One of these reports comes from a listener named Sarah, and she's here today to tell her story. Hey Sarah, how you doing? You're live on Radio Zelda. You wanna go ahead and tell the people what you saw?
Hey Radio Zelda. I was at school the other day in the darkroom developing some pictures for my color photography, when the strangest thing showed up in one of my images. Upon examination under the corrected light source in the school's photo lab, my picture, which I included in an image attachment, showed a strange error shaped like the mask. At the time I had no idea what it was, except that it looked really familiar. I had seen it before somewhere. At any rate, just to make sure that it was not because I had exposed the negative improperty or the image had been fogged in the way to the processing machine, I printed another copy of the image, only I obtained the exact same result. A strange-like mask image in between the pickups of my guitar in the photograph. You couldn't imagine my surprise when I came home today and checked Radio Zelda only to find similar mask images had been sighted all over the world. But that wasn't the end of my strange day. After returning home from school, I kicked off my socks and shoes, only to see a strange black symbol had appeared on my leg, just above my inner left ankle. I have no idea what this symbol means, but it too looks really familiar for some reason. I'm not sure if it's related to the strange mask appearances, but both events happening so close together prompted me to send you an image of this strange mark as well, just in case the two are related.
Okay, let me just say, if my world was on the brink of total lunar annihilation and the Triforce randomly appeared on my ankle, I'd instantly feel better. That is a sign from the three goddesses that I am safe and that there is nothing to worry about. Hell, even if it was just a piece of the Triforce, just a single one, I'd be satisfied. But the whole damn set? Dude, I'm buying a lottery ticket. But that is not all, folks. We have another report from a man named Tom. Hey Tom, how's it going? You're live on Radio Zelda. Go ahead and tell your story.
Hey, Radio Zelda. I was taking pictures of stuff one day, and I got a shot of my dog. When I got the pics developed, my dog's head looked a little weird. Then a friend told me about this site and the strange masks appearing around the world. I checked it out and saw that the screw up in the picture of my dog was in the shape of the mask. And I decided to send this picture to you. It's super real.
Tom, what the f is this? On October 5th, Radio Zelda reported on an announcement from Dr. Taran Rugeshi of Jermoa. According to the article, he didn't reveal which of the 6 candidates has been chosen to be the one, but he did confirm that his relief research team has perfected the high-tech equipment that the one will use to affect the parallel universe and stop the moon. According to Rugeshi, currently the moon is still scheduled to crash into Earth on October 26th. Testing is still being conducted to discover who the one is, but Jermoa will not disclose how these tests are conducted. But according to anonymous sources, these 2 candidates are currently the most promising. So at least we're getting somewhere. The rest of this article updates us on how the other candidates are doing. These 2 candidates have allegedly fallen in love at the research facility. Meanwhile, this candidate here has fled from Jermoa officials and remains uncooperative. It's a bit alarming since a few scientists believe that he is the one. So, let's hope they're wrong. This candidate here is supposedly the most well-adjusted out of the 6. She's been able to resolve conflict and even give marital advice to Jermoa researchers. Not to be a pessimist or anything, but isn't it a little late for that? On October 13th, things got a whole lot more hopeful. Jermoa revealed the identity of the one. Any guesses? Huh? Pause the video right now. Just take a wild guess. Alright. 3, 2, 1. The one is Bryce Wilson. Over at Z Science, Jermoa announced that the other candidates were cast aside and Bryce was chosen. They also revealed that Bryce would be interacting with this parallel universe by using a Nintendo 64 and a copy of The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. If Bryce can save the world of Termina from destruction, then our world will be saved as well. It's gonna be close though, as Bryce won't start playing the game until October 23rd, 3 days before the end. On the 23rd of October, Bryce Wilson would start playing Majora's Mask and Radio Zelda would take to the streets to interview people about the situation. We can't watch any of these clips, but the text states that people were still surprisingly optimistic. Which, hey, I'll take it. On the 24th of October, Radio Zelda noted that Bryce is making great progress through the game as he's already obtained 1 mask, which means that one mask in 24 hours? Bryce, what are you doing? Oh my god, Bryce, you know the blue dog can't run worth shit? The heart piece isn't worth it, just keep going. On October 25th, Radio Zelda would make their final report. Bryce Wilson has been playing The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask extremely well, but at this point it's just too close to tell if he's going to make it in time. At this point, Radio Zelda will be signing off. The fate of the world is in Bryce's hands now. If he's successful, you'll know it. We have compiled one final news clip from our reporters around the world. This is Radio Zelda, signing off. Circling back to the beginning when we were talking about that creepy commercial, we finally have a better understanding of what's going on here. All of these people aren't just watching gameplay trailers or let's plays of Majora's Mask, they're watching Bryce Wilson. There's another commercial for Majora's Mask that even shows Bryce Wilson playing the game at Jermoa's research facility. In my opinion, this commercial is much darker than the previous one. Throughout this commercial, we see people just helplessly watching as the moon grows bigger and bigger. At the end, we see people panicking and dashing through the streets as all hope seems lost. Now, in the end, was Bryce successful? I mean, yeah, we're here right now, well past the year 2000. Even if you might have guessed early on that the one was successful, this little story was such a fun rabbit hole to explore. I've seen this commercial for Majora's Mask many times before, but I never really thought twice about it. I just thought that it was a creepy ad for a creepy game and nothing more. The fact that there were 2 whole websites dedicated to fleshing out this big story is amazing. I wish we could get this kind of marketing again, dude. This shit is so cool. We need to bring back Radio Zelda and Z-Science for the next big Zelda game. I need to know if I have what it takes to be the one. Also, I really hope that someday we can recover all of those lost video and audio clips at Radio Zelda. If any Lost Media fans are listening right now, I am begging you guys to find those clips. If anything turns up in the search, anything at all, feel free to tweet at me. I don't use Twitter like at all, really, but I'll keep an eye out for anything related to Radio Zelda. And with all of that out of the way, let's finally start talking about the game. Finally getting to play the sequel to one of my favorite games on the N64 had my excitement shooting through the roof. I was shaking with anticipation, but as I watched the game's opening, my strong feelings gradually softened. The opening to Majora's Mask just contrasts so much with the previous game. Instead of experiencing a brisk flight through a lively forest village, we're now slowly trotting through a lifeless forest veiled by an ominous fog. Instead of celebrating the arrival of the fairy we've waited so long for, we're now mourning her absence. The opening cutscene alone does a really good job at expressing the game's grim atmosphere. That eerie feeling was only heightened once we got introduced to this game's antagonist, a Skull Kid wearing the titular Majora's Mask. When he appeared in the opening, I instantly recognized him from OOT. I remember telling a friend about it, and they reassured me that this was just a different Skull Kid entirely. After Skull Kid runs off with Epona in our ocarina, we're left to chase him on foot. Oh, and quick side note, this is the perfect time to mention how much I love the UI in this game. Listen, hear me out. The HUD looks nearly identical to the one in OOT, but the buttons all have this shiny, polished look to them. I've always loved the fresh feeling of starting a new game, and the new HUD really elevated that feeling. It's such a minor thing, but I remember it was one of the first differences I noticed about this game. It's funny because Link's model is also different, and he has a new shield, but I didn't notice that until like an hour into the game. As we run to catch up to Skull Kid, we fall down this chasm and find him waiting for us at the bottom. You know, at first I wasn't really too creeped out by Skull Kid. After all, he was my buddy that I used to have jam sessions with in the Lost Woods. But that all changed when I saw him floating around with those glowing eyes. Combine that with his chilling laughter and that creepy music, and you've got one spooky antagonist on your hands. He's like intimidating in a way that's completely different from Ganondorf. Like you've got no idea what the hell he's gonna do next. Oof, I remember being horrified when I read this line about Skull Kid getting rid of Epona. I thought that he was implying that he killed her, and I lost my damn mind. A few days later, I eventually learned that she was okay, but like, damn, Skull Kid's a dick. Using some magical power, Skull Kid casts a curse on Link that sends him into a dark nightmare. In this scene, Link is helplessly ambushed by a swarm of Deku Scrubs and subsequently turned into one of these creatures. I found out that this scene was inspired by a real nightmare from Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma. In an interview part of the Iwata Asks series, which I mentioned in the OOT video, Aonuma states, "I was thinking about an event for the Deku, and have been trying to figure out what to do with it. I thought of it at home, and Dekus appeared in my dream. I woke up screaming. I went to work the next day, and that's when Kawagoe-san told me that he finished making a movie for the Dekus. So I had him show it to me, and that movie was exactly like my dream." Earlier in the interview, Aonuma talks about how the team was given only 1 year to make Majora's Mask. As you can imagine, the pressure from working on such a tight deadline was beyond stressful and exhausting. It helps explain why someone would end up having nightmares of being terrorized by video game characters. I mean, I had those kinds of dreams too, but those were full of redeads. So, thank you for that, Aonuma. Link, now transformed into a Deku Scrub, teams up with this fairy named Tattle and they escape the pit. Finding our way into some building, we make our way up these ramps and head for the door. But before we can step out into town, we're stopped. Damn, and I thought Skull Kid was creepy. The permanent grin, those unsettling masks, and the way the music suddenly just ends when this guy appears. The Happy Mask Salesman is perfectly uncanny. I spent this entire encounter trying to figure out if this guy can be trusted. Despite promising Link that he can turn him back to normal, I was fully convinced that he was going to betray us. Especially since he's after that same creepy mask that Skull Kid has. And with literally no other choice, we head out of the clock tower and get after that mask. But don't worry, we'll come back to him later. Escaping the unsettling presence of the masked salesman and stepping out of the clock tower, we find ourselves in the heart of Clocktown. As this year's Carnival of Time quickly approaches, a sense of urgency permeates throughout the air. All throughout Clocktown, citizens are readying preparations for this year's celebration. Members of the Carnival Committee swiftly construct the Festival Tower. Meanwhile, members of the Gorman Troupe tirelessly rehearse for the Carnival's opening performance. During this annual celebration, people all across Termina come together and celebrate their harmony. At midnight on the eve of the carnival, people gather on the roof of the clock tower and sing an ancient song to call the gods. The people of Termina then pray to the gods that a bountiful harvest will come in the following year, ensuring that the land of Termina will continue to prosper. But underneath all of the excitement regarding the festival, a latent feeling of dread slowly bubbles up to the surface. When we head over to the observatory, we can peer into the telescope and find Skull Kid on top of the clock tower. Suddenly, the telescope aims upward and we see that. This was the one aspect of the game that was spoiled for me before playing it. Anyone who told me about this game just had to mention that creepy moon with a scary face on it. And honestly, I get why. It's easily one of the most iconic elements of Majora's Mask. What I love about the moon is how quietly unsettling it is. There's no loud jump scare or any unnerving music that plays when you discover the moon's horrifying appearance. Even the cutscene at the observatory is more focused on Skull Kid and the tear that falls from the moon's face. There's nothing here telling you to be scared of this thing, it just exists. I also recently learned that this cutscene at the observatory actually changes depending on the day and time it happens. I spent a lot of time running around Clocktown on my first playthrough, and I didn't get to the observatory until the second day. On this day, Skull Kid stares back at you and twitches. And yes, before you ask, it did scare the living shit out of me. On the final day after midnight, Skull Kid can be seen floating above the clock tower and pulling the moon downwards. Speaking of the moon, it's also upsetting how the people in Clocktown are largely unbothered by its creepy face. Many of the Clocktown residents are more concerned with the size of the moon as they notice it's been growing larger. For a while I thought that maybe they couldn't see the moon's face, but that's not true either. But lately there is something quite strange with the moon. Strange indeed. Dude, it has a goddamn face! Professor Shikashi, like many others, is primarily concerned with the moon's gradual descent as it draws near Earth. This tells me that the moon having a face isn't out of the ordinary for the people of Termina. In addition to this, the twin jugglers of the Gorman Troupe make an interesting comment. We're practicing for the big carnival. It happens once in a blue moon. Or, in this year's case, once in a really scary red-eyed moon. This line could imply that the moon has had a face for a while, but it didn't always look so horrifying. One theory that I found online is that the moon used to have a smiling face with yellow eyes. This theory is supported by an emblem above the mayor's chair. Some people say that it looks like the moon if it were happy. And in case you're wondering why artwork of the moon would be on display in the mayor's office, Professor Shikashi has some answers. The professor states, "The moon has long been considered a mystical body which people have worshipped and feared. This could explain why the mayor would possess an emblem of the moon, as it's likely that he also worships it. Though I will say that the Happy Mask Salesman owns a mask that looks similar to the mayor's emblem. So it could be possible that this is just a mask. Either way, the moon's not happy anymore and it's on track to destroy the Earth in just 72 hours. The threat of lunar annihilation haunts us throughout the entire game, even if you can't see the moon's intimidating face. The clock at the bottom of the screen serves as a constant reminder that time is running out. Anytime I wasted a few hours on a puzzle or struggled to get through an action segment, I'd shoot a glance at that clock and I could feel my chest start to tighten up. It was honestly a little bit too much for me to handle as a kid. I used to hate the 3-day timer. On your very first cycle, you need to wait until the last 5 hours of the final day to advance the story. Of course, I didn't know that's what you were supposed to do, and with every passing second, I was losing my mind. The guards in Clocktown wouldn't let me leave, and the NPCs weren't really helping much. As the hours slipped away from me, I felt like stopping the moon was genuinely impossible. Every time I heard the clock tower bell ring, I felt a pit in my stomach. Even after all these years, something about the sound of the clock tower just pumps my veins full of dread. The situation only gets even more stressful on the third and final day. In Clocktown, the music on the final day becomes menacing and frantic. Throughout the day, the earth occasionally trembles and the moon rapidly plummets through the sky. If you weren't feeling the weight of the moon on your shoulders before, you were definitely feeling it now. Especially if you were in the middle of a dungeon as time was winding down. You could rewind time at any moment, sure, but did you really want to risk doing all of this again? I also have to mention that the 3DS remake of Majora's Mask adds some new visual flair on the final day. As the sun sets at around 4 PM, the sky gradually becomes bright red. As time goes on, the sky turns into a dark crimson color. Wait. Why does it kind of look like... Personally, I prefer the regular sky we see in the original game. I think the pale green sky during the day and the pinkish red clouds at night feel a lot more subtly distressing. I feel like the remake's blood red sky is a bit too creepypasta. In the final 5 hours of the day, the doors to the clock tower finally open. During this time, the clock tower continuously rings out as the music becomes melancholic and soul-stirring. As time marches onward, the clock tower rings out faster and faster. This bell once welcomed people across Termina to take part in the most anticipated event of the year. Now, it serves as a siren, warning people of the Earth's impending destruction. As the bell's chimes reverberate all throughout Termina, the moon comes crashing into the clock tower. Like a rock through a glass window, the moon shatters the Earth with ease. Engulfed in flames, the moon sets the world ablaze and Link is swept up in the raging fire. And just like that, we're back in front of the Happy Mask Salesman. I really like how the 3DS version doesn't reset the game for you. It tells you to go back to the 3DS home menu and manually reset the game. It's a very small change, but it feels like this world is genuinely lost. The only way things can return to normal is through the help of some supernatural power, which in this case is you. Like I've mentioned in the past, I used to be extremely averse to timers in video games. Whether it was underwater levels in Sonic, a secret boss in Kingdom Hearts, or a timed escape segment, I hated all of it. The only reason I put up with Majora's Mask was because I loved Ocarina of Time. Surprisingly, this game is what helped me get over my fear of timers. I know, if anything, this should have been the game that cemented my hatred for them. That first cycle in Majora's Mask really helped me understand how much time the game gives you to run around and complete objectives. All that time I spent running around in Clocktown, I thought, damn, this game gives you a lot of time. When we get our ocarina back from Skull Kid on the night of the final day, we learn the Song of Time and use it to return to the first day. When I learned that I could essentially rewind the clock at any time, I felt way better about playing through the game. Then I also learned from a scarecrow that I could play the Song of Time in reverse to even slow down the flow of time. These two factors made Majora's Mask much more enjoyable for me. Not too far into the game, I also got the Bunny Hood, an item that increases Link's movement speed. This item made me feel unstoppable. I was not only able to get comfortable with the timer, but I also started to enjoy all of the time management I was doing. The more I played the game, I really got a grasp of how much time I would need to complete a dungeon or handle a couple of side quests. My time spent with Majora's Mask really allowed me to enjoy games with time limits or deadlines. Games like Pikmin, Knights, and yes, even water levels in Sonic games. It's so weird because I remember people really disliking Majora's Mask when I was a kid. Once I had wrapped up my playthrough, I looked for opinions online and found that a lot of people really hated that 3-day timer. Whenever I tried talking to my friends about Zelda games, they all shared a mutual hatred for Majora's Mask, and it really bummed me out. They all agreed that the best Zelda game was either Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess. So I feel super vindicated when I go online nowadays and see just how many people out there love Majora's Mask. Growing up, my friends would literally always disagree with my video game takes. I remember one day saying that Link could easily beat Mario in a fight, and it was like a huge controversial thing for me to say. One of my friends was like, no way, what if Mario had fireballs? And then everyone went, ooh, like he made a good point. What are we doing? The Hylian shield can literally block fireballs, it's just stupid. Anyways, when we returned to the Happy Mask Salesman with our ocarina, I was shocked to see that he actually helped restore Link's true form. I began thinking that he was just one of those weirdos with a heart of gold. After all, Zelda games are full of quirky and weird NPCs, so I'm sure he's a good guy. Then he realizes that we failed to retrieve Majora's Mask. This scene mortified me as a kid. Not only was it horrifying to see young Link being tossed around like a rag doll, but it's also the way the Happy Mask Salesman looks in this scene. His eyes are full of hatred, but that immortal smile never once leaves his face. Even as he's fuming with anger, he still tries to uphold this happy facade. When he switches to a worried expression, the edges of his lips still curl into a smile. Just as I thought that I was starting to understand this guy, he gives me a horrifying core memory. I won't lie though. Revisiting this scene as an adult, it's pretty funny. like why does Link just sit there? Immediately after the Happy Mask Salesman freaks out, he explains the origins of Majora's Mask. According to him, the mask was used by an ancient tribe in its hexing rituals. Wearing the mask grants an individual access to evil and wicked powers. The mask was so powerful that it was sealed away in the shadows to prevent misuse. Eventually, the tribe of Legend had disappeared, and now nobody truly understands the nature of this mask's power. This story made me even more suspicious of the Happy Mask Salesman. Why would anyone in their right mind hear about an evil mask with magical powers then go out of their way to get it? I don't mean to be rude, but he doesn't really strike me as the heroic type, and he was easily knocked out by a single Skull Kid, so I doubt that he was trying to protect it from evil. However, I have a theory as to why he would want this mask. When the Happy Mask Salesman turns Link back to normal, he teaches him the Song of Healing. It's great, he just pulls this big ass organ out of nowhere. Now look at him playing that thing. He seems to be a pretty talented musician, don't you think? I mean, you would have to be if you're gonna play an instrument as grandiose as that. Now, how could Majora's Mask benefit a musically inclined person? Let's go on back to Hogarth's homepage of Hidden History. Here we can see a timeline of individuals that allegedly possessed Majora's Mask throughout history. Oh, what's that on October 26th of 1962? The Beatles' tape Please Please Me, which mysteriously catapults them to the top of the charts. His words, not mine. This clearly illustrates to me that the Happy Mask Salesman was after Majora's Mask to kickstart his career as a musician. With the power of this mask, he would be able to upstage Guru Guru and the Indiegogos, allowing him to pursue world domination with the power of music, everybody. This is how the Happy Mask Salesman, all jokes aside, I was able to dig up even more information on the Happy Mask Salesman on Miiverse of all places. I found an interview from the Miiting series, which was conducted by Mari-chan, an official Nintendo user. Normally, she would interview developers, but for the release of Majora's Mask 3D, she interviewed the Happy Mask Salesman. The interview starts off to a pretty weird start when the Happy Mask Salesman says that he's happy to see Mari-chan again despite this being their first time meeting. He states that he remembers her from her first time playing Majora's Mask. Apparently, he closely watches anyone who plays the game. Later in the interview, he states that Eiji Aonuma's favorite spot in Clocktown is the post office. And as if that wasn't creepy enough, he states that he remembers Mari-chan's satisfied expression when she'd restore a broken sign with the Song of Healing, implying that he can not only see someone's gameplay, but that he can also see a person outside of the game. I don't like that. During this interview, Mari-chan asks the Happy Mask Salesman to tell us more about himself, and he insists that he's just a humble mask salesman. Mari-chan asks why he's called the Happy Mask Salesman, and he responds that it's because he only exists to bring everyone happiness. He claims that his only motivation is to bring happiness to all of the people around him. Mari-chan then says, "That's, I don't want to say suspicious, but Mr. Aonuma once said, the mask salesman is the absolute shadiest person. There's nobody quite so fishy as someone who goes around saying he sells happiness. So we called him the Happy Mask Salesman. How do you feel about that?" The Happy Mask Salesman replies, "Oh my. Some people say the strangest things. It's enough to spoil everyone's happiness." Ugh. Mari-chan also takes this opportunity to ask about Majora's Mask. She asks why the mask is shaped like a heart, and the Happy Mask Salesman responds, "By adding spiky thorns to the beautiful and pure shape that is a heart, we tried to strongly convey the mask's sinister nature," is something I heard someone say once. She follows this up by asking how he got his hands on the mask, and he replies, "You want to know my mask acquisition methods? It's a trade secret. I would lose my competitive edge if I revealed it." Yeah, okay, the interview doesn't really clear up much about the Happy Mask Salesman specifically. In fact, it somehow makes him even creepier than before. I'll reference this interview a few more times throughout the video, but I've also got a link to it in the description if you want to read it for yourself. For now, let's get out of this clock tower. I'm sick of being near this guy. The NPCs that inhabit the world of Termina are one of my favorite aspects of Majora's Mask. There are so many characters and each one is full of personality. Don't get me wrong, I loved the characters in Ocarina of Time, but I didn't really get to interact with them as much as I wanted to. Here in Majora's Mask, there are dozens of side quests that involve these colorful NPCs. In addition to that, many of these characters have their own schedules that they follow to a T. It's a really neat detail that makes this world feel alive, and it fueled my desire to help the people of Termina. During my first playthrough, I had a lot of fun getting to know each character and their schedules. It made me feel like I was a detective as I studied each character and tried to piece together what I could do to help them out. While we're here, let's take this time to go over some of the game's creepiest characters and side quests. One of the spookiest characters in Clocktown can be found at the Stockpot Inn. If you head on over to the bathroom at midnight, you'll find this. This person ghost thing is referred to as triple question mark in the bomber's notebook. If we speak to them, they start begging for us to bring them some paper. Once we do so, the hand goes down into the toilet and brings us a piece of heart. Yay! The toilet hand really bothered me as a kid because the game never explains who it belongs to or what it's doing in the toilet. This is so embarrassing to admit, but I remember my kid self believing that this hand belonged to the dead hand, and that made it like 10 times scarier to me. I'm sure that it doesn't belong to the dead hand, but that would be so funny. I need it to be canon. In an old interview with Entertainment Weekly, Shigeru Miyamoto discussed yet another mysterious toilet hand that appears in Skyward Sword. Miyamoto states, "It's actually something from a Japanese ghost story, not a specific ghost story. There are some ghost stories in Japan where, when you are sitting in the bathroom in the traditional style of the Japanese toilet, a hand is actually starting to grab you from beneath. It's a really scary story." It's possible that Miyamoto is referring to the story of Hanako-san, a Japanese urban legend about a ghost that haunts bathrooms. There are many variations of this story, but they all follow a similar structure. Basically, Hanako-san haunts the third bathroom stall on the third floor of the schoolhouse. If you happen to knock on this stall 3 times and ask if she's there, she'll respond yes. What happens after this depends on who's telling the story. Some say that a ghost hand appears in the bathroom, while others say that Hanako-san will attack anyone who opens the door and drag them into the toilet. Miyamoto could also be referring to the story of Akamanto, another Japanese urban legend related to toilets. In this story, a person goes to use a bathroom that is typically avoided by most people. Once this person finishes their business, they go to reach for toilet paper and find that there's none left. Then they hear a voice asking, "Do you want red paper or blue paper?" Whether this person responds red or blue paper, they have a grisly fate in store. If they answer red paper, this person is stabbed and cut as their blood soaks their clothes. If they answer blue paper, this person is either suffocated or has all of the blood drained from their body. As for the identity of Akamanto, it all depends on who's telling the story. Could be a ghost, or a serial killer, or a yokai. Whatever the case is, it seems like people working on Zelda were really fond of these types of urban legends. Since the toilet hand appears in not 1, not 2, but 3 Zelda games. What's up with that? I guess we have a few of those in America as well. I can't think of any right now outside of Bloody Mary, but I'm sure there's more than that, right? Moving on from toilet hands, I want to talk about a side quest we can find on the outskirts of town. If we head south of Clocktown and follow Milk Road, we'll discover a giant boulder blocking the path forward. On the final day, this boulder will be destroyed, allowing us to enter Romani Ranch. Here we meet Cremia and Romani, 2 sisters that have been caring for this ranch ever since their father passed away. Romani, the younger sister, is really strange. She has a fatigued expression on her face and struggles to communicate. Every so often, Romani will grab her head and thrash around. Something's clearly wrong with her, but Cremia doesn't explain. If we return to the first day and use a powder keg to blow up the boulder, we can access Romani Ranch way earlier than usual. On this day, Romani is much more lively. With a bow in hand, she spends her time running around this weird little balloon she created. When we speak to her, she tells us that she's practicing for tonight. Because tonight, they are coming. Every year, they come at night when the Carnival of Time approaches. These creatures emerge from a bright, shining ball. Then they make their way into the barn and steal the cows. And this is a big deal because the cows at Romani Ranch are a special breed that produce Chateau Romani, a luxurious and highly sought after beverage. Just one bottle costs 200 rupees. For reference, a regular bottle of milk is only 20 rupees. Romani Ranch is known as the home of Chateau Romani, and without these special cows, it's unlikely that Cremia will be able to financially support her family. Romani then asks us for our help in fending off these supernatural threats. Returning to the barn at 2 AM, we find Romani, who tells us to head outside and keep the monsters at bay. Just a few moments later, they finally appear. Just like Romani had described, these creatures appear along with a bright orb in the sky. The creatures themselves look unlike anything we've seen in Termina or Hyrule. Covered in an orange haze, these creatures have shimmering claws and beaming eyes that emit light. If they're defeated, they simply respawn and continue to float towards the barn. So, what the hell are these things? The Legend of Zelda encyclopedia book refers to these creatures as ghosts, but these are not ghosts. They come down in what is presumably a spaceship and try to abduct some cows. You know, pretty standard alien behavior. So these guys are totally aliens. I don't care what that book says. It's commonly believed that these aliens are inspired by a real-world cryptid known as the Flatwoods Monster. First spotted in the town of Flatwoods in West Virginia, the story goes as follows. On the night of September 12, 1952, a group of kids were hanging out near the Flatwoods Elementary School. These 4 kids were Edward May, Freddie May, Neil Nunley, and Tommy Heyer. Early in the night, the kids noticed a bright light had suddenly torn through the sky and crashed into a hillside near a farm. The kids ran to see what it was, and on the way, they stopped at the home of the May kids. There, they had told their mother, Kathleen May, about what they had seen. Unsure of what to think, she then asked a National Guardsman, Eugene Lemon, to go with them and investigate the scene. At the site of the crash, the group spotted a blinking red light. Lemon then shined his flashlight at the hill and spotted a creature with glowing eyes staring back at them. This creature was reportedly 10 feet tall, wrapped in what looked like a metal dress, and had giant clawed hands. Once it was spotted, it levitated off the ground and released a nauseating fog. It then hissed at the group before flying towards them. Luckily, the group managed to escape without suffering any injury. Later, Kathleen and Lemon reported this incident to the authorities, but they found nothing. Eventually, a drawing of this creature was created based on Kathleen May's description. If we take this drawing and put it side by side with the Majora's Mask alien, the resemblance is pretty clear. Just look at that. On top of that, the aliens in the game are surrounded by an eerie fog and have the ability to levitate. Sounds like a couple of Flatwoods monsters if you ask me. I've also seen some people claim that the aliens in Majora's Mask could have been inspired by the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. This incident occurred on the night of August 21st, 1955, in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. On that night, an extended family called the Suttons ran into the Hopkinsville police station begging for help. What they told police turned out to be one of the strangest accounts of an alien encounter ever. I'll do my best to summarize it. On the night of August 21st, 11 people were spending time together at the Sutton family farm. A family friend, Billy Ray Taylor, stepped out back to get some water from the well. While he was out there, he heard a weird noise, looked up, and saw a silver object darting through the air. He ran back inside and told everyone what he saw, but they weren't buying it. Elmer Sutton decided to go out back with Taylor and investigate further. For a moment, the duo found nothing. But when their dog ran past them, they turned around and saw a strange creature. Geraldine Sutton Stith told WBKO News that the creature had huge ears, big glowing eyes, and arms that reached down to the ground. When Taylor and Elmer came running into the house, everyone still thought they were joking. They realized this wasn't some big elaborate prank once Taylor and Elmer grabbed a shotgun and a rifle. They continuously shot at the small humanoid creatures, but no bodies were left behind. Once they realized their efforts were futile, they went back inside and told everyone that they were going to Hopkinsville. Once there, the family staggered into the police station and frantically told an officer about what had just happened. A whole crew of officers went to investigate, but nothing turned up. Since nothing was there, the police eventually just took off. Later that night, Stith's grandma got the kids settled in bed before going to sleep herself. But as she was resting on her bed, she opened her eyes for a brief moment and saw the creature in the window. She convinced herself that she was just hallucinating, just too exhausted to be thinking straight. But then she opened her eyes and the creature hadn't moved. She ignored it. She opened her eyes a third time and saw that the creature was still there. This time around, the Suttons claimed that they had defended themselves against these creatures until the following morning. After that, the creatures were never seen again. The aliens in Majora's Mask were no doubt influenced by this famous alien encounter, especially since Link also has to defend a farm from a swarm of aliens until daybreak. And yeah, Link doesn't use a 12-gauge shotgun, but a bow is close enough. In an interview with GameSpot, they asked Eiji Aonuma about the inspiration behind the inclusion of the Romani Ranch aliens. Aonuma says, "The reason we used this at the time was because Japan was experiencing something of a UFO boom, and it even went so far as for shows on TV to cover it and explaining to people what cattle mutilation was. So even to see words as scary as cattle mutilation on TV, and the idea of UFOs abducting people led to this whole idea of Earth being invaded by aliens becoming rather popular. I thought it would be really interesting and scary to use in the game. That's how we decided to go with that." Both the Flatwoods Monster and the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter are famous alien-related incidents. I have no doubt that Aonuma and the dev team may have heard about them if there was a lot of alien coverage in the area at the time. You guys know me, I wasn't the most courageous person growing up, but believe it or not, the aliens themselves didn't really freak me out. What really upset me is what happens if you fail to protect the barn. When the aliens reach the barn, they use a glowing tractor beam to abduct all of the cows. As the aliens float upward to the same shining ball they arrived in, they drag Romani with them. She flails around helplessly in the air, unable to escape the beam's grasp. Then, in a flash, the aliens disappear, and the sun rises over Romani Ranch. On the second day, we can see that Romani has somehow returned to the ranch, but she's been mindlessly wandering around. If we try to speak to her, she exhibits that same weird behavior we noticed when we first met her on the final day. It seems like the aliens have erased Romani's memory, leaving her in this unresponsive state. Inside the Romani sisters' home, Cremia sits alone at their dining table. When we speak to her, she tells us that something happened to her sister and now all the cows are gone. Without her specialty cows, who knows how or if she can keep the ranch up and running. Worst of all is that now her sister is trapped in an apathetic state with no cure. Losing both her parents and now her sister, Cremia is truly alone. This cutscene horrified me as a kid. The way Romani is helplessly dragged away by these monsters, then practically turned into a zombie, is terrifying. Then there was the guilt of letting her get captured. Cremia's heartbroken face is permanently etched into my brain. I had to replay this quest multiple times because my aim was absolute dog shit. And whenever I failed, I just had to turn off my Wii. I couldn't stand to watch that cutscene again. Speaking of quests that made me feel like a piece of shit for screwing them up, I've got just one more for you guys. Though it should be noted that this one definitely leans more on the grim and heartbreaking side rather than the creepy and eerie side. But it is one of my favorite Zelda side quests, so I'm making an excuse to talk about it. Back in Clocktown, we can chat with the mayor's wife, Madame Aroma. She tells us that about a month ago, her son Cafe went missing and she wants us to find him. She then hands us this mask that's modeled after his face. Dude, I get it. You miss him. But what the hell is this? If we wear the Cafe mask and speak to someone, they'll tell us what they know about Cafe. You can try and get the 411 from everyone in Clocktown, but only one group of people give you a solid clue about Cafe. Members of the Bomber's Secret Society of Justice tell us that they used to see him hanging out by the laundry pool, and they are absolutely right. Cafe can be seen leaving his hideout in the laundry pool on the dawn of the first day to deliver a letter. You can play the inverse Song of Time to slow the flow of time and use a bunny hood to catch up to Cafe, but he will not speak to you. If you follow him back to his hideout, the door is locked and you're unable to enter. Over at the Stockpot Inn, we can eavesdrop on a little conversation between the postman and Anju the innkeeper. During this interaction, we see that Anju is shocked after receiving Cafe's letter. She tries to ask the postman where he got it from, but unfortunately for her, the postman is annoying. Yeah! When we speak to Anju with the Cafe mask after witnessing this, she tells us to meet with her at 11:30 p.m. in the kitchen. This is the first spot in the quest where things can start to go wrong. If we don't speak to Anju with this mask or meet with her in the kitchen, she'll spend the second day in the laundry pool waiting for Cafe. If we go up and speak to her, she'll ask us if we've seen Cafe. Anju then says that she's afraid to meet him and discover why he's disappeared. She's worried that she might be the reason why Cafe left in the first place. Tormented by the thought, Anju sits by the laundry pool and sobs. Later that night, we can eavesdrop on another conversation between Anju and her mother. Anju's mother desperately tries to convince Anju to flee with her to Romani Ranch. Her mother suspects that Cafe has run off to be with Anju's best friend, Cremia. However, Anju explains that Cafe's letter promised that he would return and meet her tomorrow, but her mother isn't convinced. She urges Anju to focus on her survival instead of Cafe, and Anju reluctantly agrees. On the final day, Anju and her family will be staying with Cremia at Romani Ranch. Anju is second-guessing her decision to flee Clocktown, but it's too late. Anju's mother admits that she's been a little hard on Anju, but Anju's safety is her top priority. With no way of helping at this point, we're forced to play the Song of Time and try again. If we do the right thing and meet with Anju on the first day, she tells us about the letter she received from Cafe. She's made her own letter in response and asks if we can deliver it for her. This is yet another spot in the quest where we can screw everything up. You can fail the side quest by simply not delivering Anju's letter, or if you're straight up evil, you can give Anju's letter to the hand in the bathroom. Yeah, that's so messed up. You can also ruin everything if you stop Seikon the thief in North Clocktown. Him stealing the bomb bag is really important for later, so you have to let that poor old lady get robbed. On the following day, Cafe leaves his home in the laundry pool to go and accept this letter from the postman. This gives us just enough time to slip by and enter his hideout. Inside, we can speak with Cafe and he asks if we can keep a secret. He takes off his mask and reveals that he is Cafe, which is something I spoiled already, but what you didn't know if you hadn't already played the game is that the Cafe we're looking for is an adult. This Cafe is clearly a child. After running into Skull Kid, he was transformed into a kid, but this isn't why he's hiding from everyone. He explains that his wedding ceremony mask was stolen by Seikon the thief. Cafe promised Anju that when he saw her again, he would bring the wedding mask, so he had to remain in hiding. He asks that we bring her this pendant to reassure Anju that he will meet her again. Yet again, everything can go wrong if we don't deliver this pendant in time. If we fail to deliver the pendant, Anju will flee Clocktown and go to Romani Ranch with her family. But if we do deliver the pendant, Anju will gain the resolve to stay and wait for Cafe in spite of her mother's demands. At Romani Ranch, we can talk with Anju's family. Her mother reveals to us that her husband once left her, but she held on to the belief that he would return someday. Since we never see Anju's father in the game, it's safe to assume that he up and abandoned his family. This explains why Anju's mother is so distrusting of Cafe and insistent that Anju leaves him behind. Anju's mother worries that her sense of naivety may have been inherited by her daughter, sealing her fate. On the night of the second day, we can eavesdrop on another conversation. This time it's between the man from the curiosity shop and Seikon. The thief tries to pawn off a bag full of bombs, but he ends up getting ripped off and earns only 50 rupees for it. Dumbass! On the final day, we can meet the man from the curiosity shop in Cafe's hideout. He tells us a bit about Seikon, and we learn that he's from Ikana Valley. If we head there, we can find Cafe hiding nearby and waiting for Seikon's return. You guessed it, this is another spot where things can go horribly wrong. If Seikon spots us, he won't open the door to his hideout where he's keeping Cafe's wedding mask. This is pretty far into the side quest too, so if you were to screw up here, you'd have to redo everything I just described. Thanks to all of those years I spent playing Sly Cooper, this never happened to me once. Except for when I had to get the footage for it. Inside Seikon's hideout, we find the mask that Cafe is looking for, the Sun's Mask. Without thinking, Cafe runs forward and ends up stepping on a trap that sends the mask down a conveyor belt. If the mask reaches the end of the belt before we do, it'll fall into a pit, and you guessed it, we'll fail the side quest. From here, we team up with Cafe to solve a series of puzzles in Seikon's hideout. When we play as Cafe, we need to hit the correct switches in each room to open the path forward. Meanwhile, Link has to defeat the enemies in each room to continue to the next. I still remember how amped I got when we suddenly switched perspectives to play as Cafe. It comes completely out of left field and you don't get any time to process it. You have got to go if you want to get that mask back. Playing as Cafe really deepened my emotional investment in this story. While most NPCs leave Link to do the heavy lifting, Cafe isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Even if he was the one who set off this trap, it was so uplifting to see him refuse to give up. But if we fail to grab the mask in time, this happens. Seikon's security system claims the mask and we're trapped in here. Tattle asks Link to play the ocarina so that we can escape this place. The doors are all locked and playing the Song of Time or the Song of Soaring are the only ways we can get out of here. Either way, we're forced to leave Cafe behind, forcing him to live out the last few hours of his life alone in a cave with no hope of escape. But if you manage to keep your cool, you should have no problem solving these puzzles and reaching the mask in time. After clearing the final room, we'll save the mask moments before it falls into the pit. Now it's a race against the clock, as Cafe only has a few more hours before the moon hits the earth. Back on the second floor of the Stockpot Inn, we'll find Anju waiting for Cafe. Even as tremors shake the earth and people run for safety, Anju is completely unwavering. With only an hour and 30 minutes left before destruction, Cafe finally returns. Anju and Cafe, finally reunited, exchange their masks and become an official couple. Anju and Cafe then present Link with the couple's mask, a special mask that is filled with their undying love. After this, Anju and Cafe encourage Link to seek shelter. With the end of the world just an hour away, the couple have decided that they shall greet the morning together. As a kid, I found this side quest endlessly frustrating and I was only able to complete it with a guide. But once I had everything finally wrapped up, oh man, dude, I was on the verge of tears. Throughout this entire side quest, it feels like some mysterious force is fighting to keep Anju and Cafe from being together. Even when you fight through all the struggles and reunite the couple, their reunion is short-lived. They only have an hour to enjoy their time together before the Earth is destroyed. Somehow, despite all of this, Anju and Cafe are just happy to be together. As people across the world cry and scream in terror, Anju and Cafe stand together and smile. Playing the Song of Time and erasing everything we've done for them was nearly impossible for me to do. It's why on subsequent playthroughs I always make sure to save this side quest for last. I want nothing more than for them to see the sunrise. Over at Nintendo Everything, they have a translated interview with Eiji Aonuma from Nintendo Dream. In this interview, Nintendo Dream asks Aonuma's personal experiences that had influence on Majora's Mask. He tells Nintendo Dream that the Anju and Cafe side quest was inspired by a real wedding that he attended. Prior to the wedding, North Korea had launched a missile over Japan. This was back in 1998, and despite the horrifying news, the wedding went on. Aonuma states, "We were attending a wedding of a staff member and were talking with Koizumi and the others. Come to think of it, it's somewhat strange to come to a wedding in a situation when missiles may fall down today." The discussion progressed into noting how it would also fit the setting of a falling moon and whether to do a wedding in the game. Now that I think of it, no matter where we go, we always talk about work. However, I didn't mind at the time. I think this real-world inspiration goes a long way in making Anju and Cafe feel like real people that truly love each other. Even as the moon threatens to destroy everything, all they care about is being together again. It's incredibly heartwarming and tragic that they spend these 3 days not running to safety or preparing for the end, but fighting to see each other again. This is yet another thing that I love about Majora's Mask. How everyone reacts to the moon's gradual descent. The way people in Termina cope with their inevitable demise feels so human. Some people run for safety while others stay in Clocktown, continuing to deny that there's any danger at all. When I was a kid, I hated the members of the carnival committee for preparing the festival like nothing was wrong. I remember thinking to myself, this is so stupid. If this was real life, nobody would stay in town if the moon had a face and suddenly started to fall from the sky. Yet, as I've grown older and in light of recent real-world events, I've come to the horrifying realization that there would be a lot of people unbothered by this exact scenario. The moon could start falling tomorrow and you'd have thousands of people denying that it's even happening. I bring this up because I want to highlight a few specific characters and special interactions that occur with them on the final day. Many of these interactions are dark and upsetting, but they do an excellent job at further humanizing the people of Termina. For starters, I want to talk about Romani and Cremia. At the ranch, we can find the sisters hanging out in the barn. Romani explains that tonight, she gets to try Chateau Romani for the first time. Before today, Cremia always said that Romani couldn't have Chateau Romani until she was an adult. That's because Chateau Romani is heavily implied to contain alcohol. It's a drink that's exclusively served in Clocktown's milk bar. When we try to talk to one of the bar's regulars, he starts slurring his words and says, "Can you get tipsy from something like milk?" Back in the barn, Cremia tells Romani that she has become an adult now, which means she gets to have Chateau Romani. Before leaving the barn, Cremia tells Romani to sleep in her bed tonight. If you read between the lines here, it's obvious why Cremia is letting her sister have Chateau Romani. When I was a kid, I thought it was just Cremia trying to give Romani the best day ever while there was still time. You know, like trying to knock off all the stuff on a bucket list. Only years later did I realize that with Romani under the influence, she hopefully won't realize that the world is about to end. When she falls into a drunken stupor, this might be enough to keep her from being woken up by the Earth's tremors, remaining peacefully unaware of the end in her sister's arms. This moment between Cremia and Romani is absolutely heartrending. What I love about this moment is how carefully Cremia approaches the situation to avoid scaring Romani. Cremia tells Romani, "You've become an adult now, Romani. I see it in you. I'm acknowledging it." This ties into something that Cremia said on the second day. If we successfully fend off aliens on the first day, we can help Cremia deliver milk to Clocktown on the second day. If we keep these bandits at bay and successfully deliver the milk, Cremia tells us, by doing one good deed, a child becomes an adult. This is relevant because Cremia has likely told the same thing to Romani. By teaming up with Link and saving the cows, Romani has done a good deed. In her mind, this explains why her older sister is suddenly acknowledging her as an adult, because in her words, she is. It is a perfectly serendipitous lie that keeps Romani from growing suspicious of Cremia. Romani is a pretty perceptive kid too. If we speak to her with a cafe mask, Romani says, "Romani knows. My sister Cremia has someone in town she likes, but that person will get married the day of the carnival. It's hard for my sister, going into town." The next character I want to discuss is over at the Swordsman's School in Clocktown. Here we can participate in training courses offered by the Swordsman. He teaches us the basics of combat and even gives us a piece of heart if we earn 30 points in his expert course. On the final day, the Swordsman tells us not to worry about the moon falling. He says that he alone will rescue everyone by cutting the moon into pieces. At 11 p.m., the Swordsman kicks us out of the school so that he can unite his spirit to cut the moon. At midnight, we'll be able to re-enter the school, but the Swordsman is nowhere to be found. The spot where he normally sits is occupied by a sign that reads, "I'll be on vacation for a short while. Please don't look for me." If we go to the back of the school, we'll be able to cut this board in half and reveal a hidden room. Inside of this room, we can find the Swordsman shivering in a corner. Overwhelmed by fear, he yells out that he doesn't want to die. I found this particular interaction deeply unnerving because of the Swordsman's complete 180 flip in the last few hours. From day one, the Swordsman often brags about his courage and his skill as a master. When he tells Link that he's going to slice the moon into pieces, he reacts exactly how I expected him to. Like an overconfident hotshot who's not afraid of some dumb old moon. When I found him hiding away and panicking, it reminded me that he was only human, and for a moment, I missed his overconfident attitude. What's interesting about this moment is that there are several hints towards the Swordsmaster's lack of courage. If you speak to him with the Gibdo's mask, he'll freak out and demand that you remove it. He'll also be scared by the captain's hat, saying that it looks like something he saw in a bad dream. Jesus, this guy's scared of everything. You'd think he has a YouTube channel where he goes on hour-long rants about this shit. The last character I want to go over is the Postman. We talked about him briefly during the Anjuin Cafe side quest. This guy runs a tight ship. He is very strict about his schedule and won't even let you speak to him while he's out collecting mail or making deliveries. When he does catch free time, he'll spend it training. If it wasn't for Cafe, I'd say that the Postman is the most committed man in Clocktown. On the final day, we can find the Postman in the post office. Kneeling on the floor, he says that he wants to run away, but it's not written on the schedule. His duties as a postman are a top priority, so he can't bring himself to run without permission. Over on his bed, we can find a letter. Reading it shows that the letter was written by the postman to himself. In this letter, the postman tells himself that he's been doing a wonderful job at delivering letters. He requests that he flee town like everyone else before it's too late, even if it's not written in the schedule. He pleads with himself to run away from Clocktown. If we do nothing, the postman will sit here and his indecision will cost his life. During the Anjuin Cafe side quest, we receive a letter written by Cafe addressed to his mother. Giving this letter to the postman knocks him out of this analysis paralysis and he delivers the letter. At the milk bar, Madame Aroma thanks the postman for this delivery, then orders him to flee. With this final order from his boss, the postman is finally free to make his own decision and escape before it's too late. All over the world, we see people struggling to cope with this terrifying situation. Seeing all of these characters in such a vulnerable state really allows you to connect with them. It also serves as motivation to see this adventure through to the end. No matter how stuck I was on a certain puzzle, or how much a specific boss really irritated me, I had motivation to continue. No matter what, I was going to see to it that the people of Termina got their happy ending. Okay, lost a whole day to that, but that's fine. Before we defeat Skull Kid, we need to go and awaken the 4 giants. According to legend, the 4 giants are the guardians of Termina. All we have to do is find the giants, then summon them by playing a special song on top of the clock tower. And thanks to a hint from Tattle's brother Tail, we know exactly where to find them. In the swamps south of Clocktown, the waters are suffused with poison. On the surface of this toxic liquid, we'll find numerous lily pads that we can hop across as Deku Link. To transform back into a Deku, all we have to do is slip on the mask that we got from the Happy Mask Salesman. Okay, dramatic. When I first played Majora's Mask and I put on the Deku mask, I had to just sit and process what I had just seen. I then repeatedly removed the mask and put it back on to rewatch this cutscene. I thought it was creepy, yeah, but I also wanted to know what I was looking at and why it was happening. I thought that maybe I had just mindlessly skipped over some important dialogue that explains why this happens. Anytime Link puts on any of the transformation masks, he leans forward, clutches his face, then throws his head back and screams. Throughout the animation, we can hear an unexplained crackling noise as well. I've heard some people interpret this as Link's bones cracking as they morph into the shape of whatever creature the mask resembles. I remember thinking that it was the sound of the mask clawing its way into Link's face, since the mask does essentially become Link's new face. This could also explain why Link starts screaming, as this would no doubt be a painful process. If we go back to the Miiverse interview with the Happy Mask Salesman, Mari-chan asks why Link screams when he puts on a mask. The Happy Mask Salesman states, "It's very simple. The boundless sorrow surrounding each mask comes rushing inside the wearer when they put it on. So the urge to scream is quite understandable really. The transformation masks are all tied to specific characters, so this explains where all of that pain and sorrow comes from." We'll talk some more about these types of masks later, but I just had to bring up that creepy animation. Skipping along the water and moving deeper into the swamp, we'll find the home of the Deku Monarchy. The Deku Palace is heavily fortified and swarming with guards. Luckily, we're allowed entrance as Deku Link. Inside the palace, we're encouraged to watch the public humiliation of a monkey who allegedly kidnapped the Deku Princess. Over on the left side of the royal chamber, the monkey is being kept behind large wooden poles. He explains that he did not kidnap the princess and that she will fall victim to a monster if we don't act quickly. He teaches us a song that opens the entrance to the Woodfall Temple, where the princess has been captured. The Deku King and his men notice this interaction and kick Link out of the palace. If we go back inside, we'll see that the monkey is being suspended over a pot full of boiling water. The monkey thrashes around in the air as Deku guards lower him into the pot. When the monkey is pulled out from the water, he sits completely motionless. Eyes wide open, the monkey has gone completely silent. This scene really messed me up as a kid because I thought that I had failed to bring the princess back in time and that they had straight up killed him. It only got worse when I hit the A button to advance the dialogue and the monkey just sits there. Then I tried speaking to him again and the whole scene just restarted from the beginning. So he is alive, he's just in excruciating pain. I'm not really sure which is better, but I think that it's time we head on over to the Woodfall Temple and help this guy out. The track that plays in this temple hit my ears and instantly I couldn't help but stop and take in the atmosphere. This track features some chanting and shrieking noises that used to really bother me for one big reason. The Shadow Temple has a bongo playing in its theme that alludes to the boss of that dungeon, Bongo Bongo. I heard the chanting in the Woodfall Temple and got worried that it hinted at yet another powerful enemy. I was so scared that behind each door there was a chance I was gonna find the source of this noise and whatever it was gonna jump scare me. That sense of paranoia really ate me up in this temple as I continued to think about where that noise could be coming from. It didn't help at all that this temple has a very oppressive and bleak feeling to it. Many of the rooms are wrapped in darkness and full of creepy crawly creatures such as skulltulas and dragonflies. Outside of the temple's spooky vibe, I don't have a whole lot to say about this area. When it comes to enemies that gave me a bit of a scare, there are a few we can find in the center of the temple. In this area, we can find demonic flowers floating on the water. Deku Link can safely rest on top of these flowers, but if you step onto them as regular Link, on my first playthrough, I hopped onto the flowers as Deku Link and mindlessly assumed that they were harmless. When they suddenly snatched up Link, I remember jumping back from the screen. To be completely honest with you, I was more embarrassed than scared for falling for such a blatantly obvious trap. Did you know that you can trip these things up by chucking a bomb into their mouths? Doing so causes the flower to explode and it loses its hunger for flesh, allowing you to safely hop on top of them. Another thing I want to mention in this dungeon is a pitch black room that we can find on top of this staircase. Here, Tattle suddenly chimes in and says that she can sense a lot of evil here. When I first got here, I thought this was her way of telling me that wall masters were in the room, and I started to freak out a little bit. As I frantically ran around the room trying to figure out how to progress, a creature from the darkness suddenly took shape. Only being able to make out its tiny glowing eyes, these critters appear in droves and attack. Trying to light all of the torches in this room was nearly impossible as I wrestled with my controller. When I finally got all of the torches lit and calmed down, I got a good look at what was chasing me. These monsters are called bows, and On their own, they're not frightening at all in the slightest. But when there's a herd of them, it's pretty thrilling to run through and dodge them as they try to hop onto you. Still, their design is probably the least threatening monster design that I've ever seen in a Zelda game. I honestly think they're pretty adorable. They kinda look like soot sprites. I wonder if they're related to Pose though, since their names are pretty similar and all. Maybe they're some type of spirit similar to Pose? After navigating our way through this huge room, we reach the door to this dungeon's boss. From the darkness above drops Udolwa, the masked jungle warrior. Udolwa didn't really scare me, at all as a kid. At the time, I was actually really glad that it wasn't some freakish monster like Goma. I will add though that I love how there are multiple ways to approach this fight. I was always keen on using Deku Link to drop nuts onto Udolwa to create an opening. However, I've seen people just run up to him and attack without hesitation. I've also seen people keep their distance and lay waste with a flurry of arrows. It's not only really cool, but for the first boss of the game, it's got a decent level of challenge. It's nothing like Goma, where the strat is to just exploit the obvious weakness. In this fight, you have the freedom to approach this battle however you see fit. It's what makes Udolwa a top tier Zelda boss in my opinion. In the mountains north of Clocktown, a thick blanket of snow has covered the region. The eternal snowstorm has claimed many victims who were unprepared for the freezing temperatures. Over in Goron Village, we're acquainted with the spirit of someone who lost their life to this merciless blizzard. With the magical lens of truth, we can see the spirit of Darmani III, a valiant Goron hero. Shocked to be finally seen by someone, he guides us to his grave and tells us how he became a ghost. Darmani explains that he marched off to Snowhead alone to defeat a monster that had been terrorizing his village. The strong blizzard at Snowhead had swept up Darmani and sent him plummeting into the valley below, resulting in his death. Darmani begs for us to ease his sorrows, and we do so with the Song of Healing. He leaves behind the Goron Mask, a symbol of Darmani's undying feelings. Using the Goron Mask allows Link to transform into a Goron. If we speak to the other Gorons here, we're told that Link has become the spitting image of Darmani. They even believe that Darmani has somehow come back from the dead. Weirdly enough though, Link doesn't look exactly like Darmani. If you take a look at Darmani's ghost, you can clearly see that he has a giant scar across his stomach. Where did it come from and why doesn't Link have it? A long time ago I once heard a theory that the scar on Darmani's stomach is the fatal blow that ended up killing him. When he fell off the mountain, it's possible that Darmani fell onto a jagged spire that ended up splitting open his gut. Gorons are pretty sturdy creatures, so it's possible that they could survive a long fall, if there weren't giant rock spikes at the bottom. It's also possible that Darmani's scar is simply from one of his heroic adventures. He tells us that the blood of proud Goron heroes runs through his veins, so he may have just received this injury from battle. Whatever the case is, I always found it kind of upsetting how the Gorons rejoice that Darmani is somehow back from the dead. They gradually accept that Darmani has somehow returned, and I remember feeling really bad about this deception. I always wondered if Link ever went back to these people and explained that Darmani isn't coming back anytime soon. I wonder how they reacted to the news. On the shores west of Clocktown, the waters have become hot and murky. The warm temperatures threaten marine life, littering the ocean with skeletal fish. On top of that, fearsome Gerudo pirates have robbed a Zora mother of her eggs, keeping the unborn Zoras locked away in a secure fortress. When we arrive at the Great Bay, the first thing we'll notice is this Zora body floating in the water. If we approach, the Zora begs us to bring him to shore. On the first day, the Zora's body isn't too far off from shore, allowing us to swiftly rescue him. However, on the second and third day, the Zora body will drift further and further out into the ocean, forcing us to swim just a bit longer. This little detail is really disheartening as it demonstrates that no one helps this Zora for 3 whole days. And just so you know, a cavern full of Zoras is right around the corner. Ugh, son of a bitch, you guys really are useless. This is exactly why I like Cafe. He got shit done. On the shore, we learn that this Zora is Mikao, the guitarist for the Indiegogo's. Despite suffering from severe injuries, he gets up and puts on one last show. He explains that the Gerudo pirates stole the eggs from the vocalist in his band. He tried to go and retrieve the eggs, but he got attacked and ended up how we found him just a few moments ago. He asks us to heal his soul, and just like with Darmani, we play the Song of Healing to get another mask. I'm sure that by now you've noticed a trend. That's 2 out of 3 transformation masks that we receive from dead/dying people. The Deku mask is the only one where someone seemingly doesn't need to die, which seems impossible if we consider that the Happy Mask Salesman confirmed that these masks contain a person's pain and sorrow. If that's true, then who did the Deku mask come from? At the beginning of the game, below the clock tower, we come across this weird misshapen tree thing. If we inspect it, Tattle says, "It's strange, but the way you look right now sort of looks like this tree. It looks all dark and gloomy, almost like it could start crying any second now. How sad." If every transformation mask comes from a person, we can reasonably assume that this mask was created from this Deku scrub. The Happy Mask Salesman even implies this to be the case in his interview with Mari-chan. Mari-chan asks, "By the way, was there also a person that the Deku mask was made from?" The Happy Mask Salesman responds, "I have heard tell of a small Deku scrub being spotted underneath the clock tower, and he did look a bit like Link when he wears the mask. Let me say this, you may learn more if you finish the game." Later, when we meet the Deku Butler at the Deku Palace and beat him in a race, he tells Deku Link that his appearance reminds him of his son. Then in the game's credits, we can see the Deku Butler below the clock tower. He's kneeling in front of this dead Deku scrub and weeping. Without a doubt, this dead Deku is the Butler's son, and the Deku mask is made from his memories. Seeing this scene as a kid had me upset for weeks after beating the game. Nothing was more upsetting than having to accept that you can't save everyone. This poor Deku, Darmani, and Mikao all have their fates sealed from the beginning. Darmani and Mikao at least get to make requests from Link. Darmani asks Link to rescue his people, and Mikao asks Link to save the Zora eggs. This unnamed Deku scrub gets nothing. They die off-screen and their story is left untold. All we know about them comes from the Deku Butler who loved him dearly. This is easily one of the most depressing things about Majora's Mask. Back at the Great Bay, I want to take a look at some of the spooky enemies here. Yeah, you think losing a loved one is scary? Look at this undead fish. Not so tough now, huh? In case this is one of the first videos of mine that you're watching, I used to be very afraid of monsters in the water. The lurker shark, the hand of Galokio, Unagi the eel, you get the idea. The skullfish at the Great Bay were a tad creepy, yeah, but they're really just fish bones with glowing eyes on them. I was slightly more shaken up by the Debresco, which are basically just larger skullfish that can latch onto you and tear you up. They're pretty annoying, but I could manage them just fine. For a while now, I've held on to the belief that these guys may have been inspired by the fishbone enemy in Mario, but I don't think that's ever been confirmed. It wouldn't be the first time that we've had Mario enemies in a Zelda game, so I think it's totally possible. The one enemy that absolutely petrified me were the deep pythons. At Pinnacle Rock, we can find 3 of the 7 Zora eggs that were taken. To get those eggs, we have to dive down into this chasm. Along the rock walls here are several holes where the eggs have been tucked away. But eggs aren't the only thing we'll find inside of these holes. I was stuck at the Great Bay for days once I reached this point in the game. Let's take Unagi the eel from Super Mario 64 and just make him 10 times more terrifying. For kicks and giggles, just look at the deep pythons. Not only are they horrifying, but as you approach their cave, they shoot outward and attack. When I was a kid, I didn't have the best TV ever, and I remember squinting at the screen because I couldn't really make out what I was seeing. I could clearly see something glowing at the back of these little caves, so I got really close to my screen to try and see what it was. Then before I knew it, this horrifying thing was leaping straight into my face. Dude, I swear to God, I jumped like 10 feet backwards. These assholes got me so bad. The worst part is that the deep pythons are extremely easy to kill. You can just spam the electric barrier and they're dead in just 2 hits. That initial scare they gave me just made me feel so helpless, I had no idea what to do. This also wouldn't be the last time that an underwater threat gave me so much trouble in this game. Inside the Great Bay Temple, we fight Georg, a monstrous shark-like creature. I also just want to add that I love how this boss is introduced like many of the bosses in Ocarina of Time. We get a cutscene that follows his perspective as he creeps up to Link. Very unnerving and a great way to build suspense. I love it whenever they do this. During the fight, I did everything I could to stay on top of the platform in the center of the arena. My plan was to just pepper Georg with arrows until he died because there was no way in hell I was going in that water. But if you try to do exactly that, he will begin ramming the platform to try and knock you into the water. He'll even jump over the platform to try and attack you. This fight was like my worst nightmare since hopping into the water, and facing that thing was the only way to defeat it. Whenever you do land a good hit on Georg, you've got to race back to the platform, otherwise he'll eat you whole. And that race back to safety always got my blood pumping because you only get 1 shot to land that dolphin jump. If you screw that up, you're toast. And I screwed up that jump. A lot. Can you imagine being Bryce Wilson in this scenario? The entire world's just watching you screw up your 3rd dolphin jump in a row as tears roll down their faces. Guys, please, I'm trying my best. This is bullshit. Before we leave the Great Bay Area, I want to highlight a spine-chilling location, the Oceanside Spider House. We can find our first spider house in the southern swamp. Inside, we meet a cursed man who's been transformed into a human Skulltula hybrid, just like the ones we meet in OOT. If we collect the 30 gold tokens inside the house, we'll free the man of this curse. I didn't bring it up until now because I never really found this house to be spooky or unsettling. The Oceanside Spider House though, oh man, that one's a little different. The Oceanside Spider House is bathed in a petrifying cold darkness. The only sources of light come from the few torches scattered around. Crackling embers and squirming gold Skulltulas produce the only sounds that fill the silence. As we search for the golden spiders, we're watched by the grinning masks that line the walls. In the library, we find even more strange decor. Several portraits here contain an image of Skull Kid. We never get a firm answer as to why these images are here, so all we can do is speculate. When I was a kid, I used to think that this place must have been Skull Kid's home. This could explain why there are so many masks hanging on the walls, since Skull Kid has an affinity for masks. In the library, we also find several stall children. According to Tattle, these things are the cursed soldiers of the mysterious Ikana Kingdom. The undead soldiers can be seen in several areas, often laughing in the dark. For whatever reason, they're unbothered by Link's presence. And somehow, this is a lot creepier if they had just up and attacked you. I remember being particularly rattled by the stall children in the dining room. Here, 4 of them just sit and laugh at each other in silence. We can actually speak to these guys using the captain's hat. The stall children reveal that they've all been investigating the secrets of this place. They all give you a clue on how to solve one of the puzzles in the house. The Oceanside Spider House isn't very big, nor does it take very long to complete, but man, it is so damn memorable. I remember when I first played the game, I got here without the captain's hat and I was left totally clueless as to why the place was riddled with stall children. And for that one puzzle that they help you solve, I just brute forced it with trial and error. In the canyon east of Clocktown, the dead wander a barren landscape and prey upon the living. There are multiple haunting locations here we can talk about, so let's begin with the Ikana graveyard. During the day, the only person we find in this place is the amazing Dompe the Gravekeeper. He explains that these graves are all occupied by families related to the deceased king of Ikana. He adds that ghosts come out at night and wreak havoc, making this a terrifying graveyard. While the Dompe in OOT was largely unbothered by all the ghosts in the Kakariko graveyard, this Dompe is terrified of all things supernatural. He is very quick to leave the graveyard before nightfall, because at night, this place becomes a playground for stall children. My favorite one is this guy hanging on the tree. I love this guy. If you speak to Dompe with a captain's hat which resembles a stall child, he'll freak out, run to his house, and lock the door. On the final day, we can find a big Poe inside of a grave, and again, this causes Dompe to run away in terror. I always liked this version of Dompe just a tad more because of how animated and goofy he can be. It's also kind of heartwarming that he still tends to the graves with care despite being horrified by all the supernatural threats. At some point, Dompe mentions his father, and this always had me curious about Dompe's life in Ikana, if this is where he's from. I wonder if that's why he's dedicated his life to caring for the dead. Maybe he even knew some of these people, making it even more difficult to leave them behind. You're a cool guy, Dompe. While most of the bodies in the graveyard are buried 6 feet under, one corpse disturbingly remains on the surface. At the far end of the graveyard, we can find a giant stall child sleeping underneath a bridge. If we play the Sonata of Awakening, we can challenge this giant stall child to a fight. After winning the battle, this stall child explains that he is Captain Kita. When he was alive, he led the Ikana army, making him the leader of all the stall children we've encountered. His spirit lies in the captain's hat, which explains why the stall children listen to Link's command when he wears this item. Heading past the graveyard, we can find the ruins of a village on the upper cliffs of Ikana Canyon. The people of this town have vanished, and in their place, ghosts and ghouls roam the land. In one of the village homes, we can speak with a Poe collector who tells us the following. Ikana Kingdom was founded on this land, stained with a history of darkness drenched in blood. Even now, it is a place where troubled, regretful spirits gather. While a majority of Ikana's history is unknown to us, we do know that they were once at war with an enemy nation. As we explore the area, Tattle will sometimes chime in and say, "I can't see it, but I sense there's a thirst for blood looming all around us." If we put on the Garo mask in this area, we can encounter a Garo ninja. These enemies are the ghosts of spies that were sent from an enemy nation to gather info on Ikana Kingdom. Unable to forget their living days, their restless spirits continue to haunt the fallen kingdom. It seems likely that these individuals are tied to Ikana's bloody history, possibly the people that Captain Kita and his men fought against. As for the nation who sent the Garo spies, we never learn anything about them. The more I learned about the Garo, the more I began to think about how similar they are to the Sheikah. You know, ninjas that operate in the shadows with dark histories full of bloodshed. It made me wonder if the Sheikah were ever tasked with doing something like this, spying on enemy nations and bringing them to ruin to ensure that Hyrule Kingdom would reign supreme. I'd like to think that the Sheikah wouldn't do something so evil, but after playing Ocarina of Time, I'm not really sure anymore. Speaking of things that are vile and evil, let's take a look at the Springwater Cave in the back of town. Here, human bones protrude out from the ground near a pool of water. If we approach this pond, a ghost appears. Claiming to be a great composer named Sharp, he wonders why Link would explore a land belonging to the dead. He assumes that Link wishes to join the ranks of the dead and begins playing a melody that drains his health. Once this started happening, I knew immediately what I had to do. We've exercised like 3 spirits already. Come on, this is easy. Kid me ran out of that cave screaming. This is such an awesome little subversion of expectations because up until now, the Song of Healing has been an undefeated method of pacifying suffering individuals. The only way to deal with Sharp is by using a song composed by his brother Flat. When we speak with him, Flat reveals that Sharp changed after selling his soul to the devil. Whenever it came to religion, Zelda games had always focused on Hylia and the 3 goddesses. So when I read this line as a kid, it scared the living shit out of me. Is hell canon to the Zelda universe? And does it happen to be at the bottom of Lake Hylia? I tried looking up if this soul-selling thing was a reference to a movie or some real-life incident, but all I found were a bunch of rumors. A bunch of people claiming that ex-celebrities sold their soul for fame and glory. I want to say that maybe in the context of Zelda, Flat says the devil, and he may have meant Skull Kid or Majora's Mask. Anyways, playing the Song of Storms for Sharp successfully gives rest to his wicked spirit and restores the flow of water in the valley. Outside of the cave, there is a music box house at the center of town surrounded by Gibdos. They circle the house endlessly, hoping to get at the last remaining human survivors in Ikana Valley. These Gibdos are also just a tad different from the ones we saw in OOT. Of course, they still have that petrifying shriek and latch onto Link's body if he gets too close, but they also turn into Redeads if you light them on fire. Of course, I never did this on my own. Redeads used to scare me like 10 times worse than a Gibdo, so I always just left them wrapped up in their bandages. These Gibdos are also capable of communication. If we slip on the Gibdo mask, we can speak to any Gibdo. The ones outside of the house speak to the people inside. Bring them. Those inside are friends. Bring them. If we try to enter the house, a voice replies, "Keep away from our house. My father is not one of you." With water now flowing from Springwater Cave, the music box attached to the house begins to play. This special song is called Farewell to Gibdos, and it was specifically composed to drive away these creatures. Even though it's safe now, the person inside refuses to let us in. Once they finally step outside, we can see that it's just a little girl. As she leaves to investigate the nearby well, we're able to sneak past her and enter the house. The house is completely empty. The girl's previously mentioned father is nowhere to be seen. It's only when we step into the basement that we find who we've been looking for. Oh my god, this one got me so bad as a kid. Looking back, I really don't know why it scared me so bad. I think it was because this person is clearly in the process of turning into a Gibdo, something that I never thought was possible. In OOT, we learn that adults and children who go missing in the Lost Woods will eventually turn into monsters. Now, hearing this information is a bit unsettling, but it's way more frightening to witness this transformation firsthand. Especially since you can tell that this man is clinging on to his last remaining pieces of humanity. I really like the official art depicting this character. In this piece of art, we can see that his right hand has turned dark with black nails. I think it's meant to show how his body is turning into a Redead before turning into a Gibdo, and that's such a cool detail. I really wish they would have made it visible on his in-game model. We can cure this man's ailment with the Song of Healing. Once he's cured, he embraces his daughter Pamela, and she assures him that he was just having a bad dream. Her father explains that he is an academic that researches supernatural phenomena. He began turning into a Gibdo after exploring the nearby well. Legend has it that a treasure is hidden at the bottom of the well, but if you go inside, you might begin turning into a Gibdo. He can't recall what happened when he went to investigate, but it seems likely that Pamela is the one who found him and brought him home. We can poke around the man's lab to get info on all kinds of supernatural enemies. If we speak to him while wearing a transformation mask, he drops a pretty crazy piece of info. My ghost radar is reacting fiercely, but this is minutely different from its usual response. This is a very intriguing response. You seem to be both similar to a ghost and different from one at the same time. This line always made me wonder if maybe Link's transformation masks are partially haunted by the person they came from. But I don't necessarily think that their spirit is trapped inside of the mask. It's more like the powerful emotions that these people have felt are being preserved within the mask. I've always thought that was pretty cool. Now I want to talk about the undead king of Ikana. But before we can get to him, Redeads. These creatures that once made my heart nearly burst out of my chest can be reduced to harmless little guys if we just put on the Gibdo's mask. I tried doing this as a kid to see if the mask would let me talk to them, and when this happened, I didn't know whether to laugh or to run. I was scared that if I interrupted their little dance, they would instantly become hostile. So I always just let them be. So, you might be thinking, why the hell do they do this? One of the Garo ninjas reveals that the Redeads will dance whenever the captain's hat, Gibdo mask, or the Garo's mask are worn. One of the gossip stones explains further. The Redeads in Ikana were once members of the castle's dancing troupe. And this shit was my lifeline as a kid. If I was in Ikana, I always kept the Gibdo's mask mapped to one of the C buttons just in case I ran into one of these bastards. Moving past the Redeads, we finally make our way to the castle throne room. Here we finally meet the undead king of Ikana, Igos du Ikana. In terms of just atmosphere, this fight is rad as hell, dude. I love this boss. First of all, that cutscene that introduces the king and his men is so cool. That line the king drops as he snuffs out the light is so heavy. My servants have fallen namelessly before the light that guides you. That shit's raw as hell, dude. Then we see the king and his men coated in a spectral green haze. They look so intimidating. I feel like the devs could have easily used the Stalfos from OOT for the King's Men, but instead we got entirely new models. These guys are even adorned with what I assume is traditional armor for soldiers of Ikana. I wonder what they looked like back in their heyday. The king also looks cool as hell. It's such a minor detail, but I really like his bright green eyes. It is the slightest of touches, but it really sets him apart from the other Stalfos. It really lets you know that this isn't some basic skeleton bitch. This is the king of Ikana Canyon. Show some respect. As for the fight itself, it's pretty great. I love that we get some fun use out of the mirror shield to deal with the king's men. I like our one-on-one fight with the king as well, but he's got one attack that's super annoying to deal with. Occasionally, he'll pop his head off his body and fly towards Link to take a bite out of him. If there's a way to dodge this attack, I never figured it out and I got chomped on multiple times in multiple playthroughs. I've heard that you can outrun this head by rolling around as Goron Link, but I've never tried it myself. I also like how if you wear the captain's hat during this battle, the king will briefly confuse you for Captain Kita. That's cute. Once the battle is wrapped up, the king asks Link to seal the doors to the Stone Tower Temple, as this is the source of the curse that plagues Ikana Kingdom. He then teaches Link the Elegy of Emptiness, a song that will help us access the temple. This song summons a heartless soldier to stand in place, letting us press down multiple switches at a time. The soldier looks identical to Link. That thing looks kinda weird. The Stone Tower is a fantastic dungeon, but I struggled to find any horrific or spooky things to talk about in this area. So I wanted to highlight a very intriguing theory about the Stone Tower. This theory posits that the Stone Tower was built by Terminians as a monument similar to the Tower of Babel. If you're unfamiliar, the Tower of Babel is from a story in the book of Genesis. In this story, people came together to build a giant tower in an attempt to reach heaven. This theory is a very interesting read, so I've included a link to this post in the description. To summarize some of the main points, OP suggests that the people of Termina have rejected the 3 goddesses mentioned in Ocarina of Time. If you look at the stone blocks outside of the tower, they can be seen licking the Triforce, which OP notes as a sign of blasphemy directed at the goddesses. Terminians instead worship the 4 giants that saved them from Skull Kid's chaos. The stone tower may have been built as a rejection of the goddesses and as a way to reach them. In the sky above the first room in the tower, we can see a bizarre green portal. OP states that this portal could lead to the realm of the goddesses. By using the giant's mask found in this temple, someone could become so big and powerful that they could wage war against the all-powerful goddesses. Again, that was just a few key points from this theory that I briefly summarized. So if you want to know more, definitely go and check it out, because we're running out of time. With all 4 giants awakened, we are fully prepared to save Termina from Skull Kid. Coming face to face with him on the clock tower, we play the Oath to Order and summon the giants. With their power combined, we successfully bring the moon's descent to a halt. Tattle is finally reunited with her brother Tail, and everything seems alright. A different scene here can play out entirely if you don't have all 4 giants at the ready. In this version of the scene, the giants that you have awakened will all gather and push against the moon, but their strength won't be enough and the moon will continue to fall. Back in a better timeline, Tattle and Tail's happy reunion is cut short when Skull Kid somehow begins levitating. Skull Kid's body then falls to the ground and it's revealed to us that Majora's Mask has a mind of its own. The mask then soars into the moon's mouth and uses its power to push the moon down towards Earth. The giants begin to tremble from the moon's intense power. Link and Tattle take it upon themselves to enter the moon and destroy Majora once and for all. The inside of the moon is serene and beautiful, so much so that it feels slightly off-putting. The only people here are 5 children wearing masks. 4 of them correlate to the different bosses we faced at each temple, while one of these children wears Majora's Mask. But you know what these kids look like underneath those masks? Nothing. They don't have faces modeled. But in the 3DS remake, all of these kids look like the Happy Mask Salesman. In the Miiverse interview with the Happy Mask Salesman, Mari-chan asks if he knows who these children are. He responds, "I'm not too sure, but judging by the fact that they live on the moon, surely they cannot be normal children? I have not met them in person, but I am pretty certain they must be some figment created by Majora's Mask. Perhaps they look like children because Link himself is a child? Oh look, they have the same hairstyle as me. So young and yet so stylish." If the children really are an illusion created by Majora's Mask, I wonder if that means that the Happy Mask Salesman is also some kind of illusion. At the very end of the game, the Happy Mask Salesman starts to walk off in Termina Field, but before he can walk out of view, he vanishes, like he was some kind of ghost. Was he also created by the mask, or is he some other type of supernatural being? Whatever you believe, it's crazy how after all these years we're still talking about the Happy Mask Salesman and all the mystery that surrounds him. That's how you know you made a very interesting character. We never really understood what this guy's deal is, and after all these years, I'm not sure if we'll ever know. If we speak to the child wearing Majora's Mask, we finally settle things once and for all. The battle takes place in a large, rainbow-colored arena. Since Majora itself has a variety of colors, I've wondered if this area is a pocket dimension inside of the mask. During this first phase of battle, Majora floats towards us and sprouts gross, fleshy tentacles. Ugh. On top of that, it's now able to wiggle the spines that line the left and right sides of the mask. It's like the mask has been transformed into a biological being made of flesh and bone. Now that Majora knows that we understand the mask's true nature, it's no longer pretending to be an inanimate object. The mask has removed its mask. In the second phase of battle, Majora sprouts grotesque limbs and gains lightning-fast mobility. The music even becomes more frenzied and wild, mirroring Majora's behavior. I remember being initially creeped out by this form, but once Majora started emoting on me, I laughed my ass off. Yeah, he's like the devil or something, but he's also kinda funny. Majora exhibits this juvenile prankster type persona during this phase of battle, and I wonder if this comes from the Skull Kid. Maybe Skull Kid's personality began to rub off on the mask after it witnessed all of Skull Kid's nasty pranks. Majora even makes these high-pitched squeaking noises that sound similar to Skull Kid. Majora's final form though, that stuff is what nightmares are made out of. In this form, Majora's limbs all become more muscular and a face rips out from the top of the mask. This face has a mouth full of jagged teeth, a third eye, and devilish horns poking out from the top. This form feels like the perfect representation of Majora's demonic nature. During the battle, Majora uses these giant whip-like appendages to attack from a distance. This thing looks like it belongs in a Resident Evil game, so naturally I didn't want to go anywhere near it. Luckily, I didn't have to stare at this thing for too long, because I had an ace up my sleeve. If we speak to the other children inside the moon, we can give them the masks we've obtained throughout our adventure. Handing over every single mask in the game gets us the Fierce Deity's mask. This mask transforms Link into the Fierce Deity, an older version of Link with colossal power. As we've already established, transformation masks are created from the soul of an individual. These masks are implied to be the undying feelings of the person they originated from. So who does the Fierce Deity's mask belong to? When asked about this in an interview with Game Informer, Eiji Aonuma states, "The best I can give you is just a suggestion. The best way to think about it is that the memories of all the people of Termina are inside of the Fierce Deity's mask. This explains why you need every single mask to obtain the Fierce Deity. These masks are proof of the people you've helped in Termina. By combining the powerful feelings of every individual in Termina into a single mask, we've obtained a power much stronger than Majora. And let me tell you, it's not even close. Fighting Majora with the Fierce Deity's mask makes the battle a cakewalk. It's so damn easy. I'm not mad about it though. It was so satisfying to crush this son of a bitch. And just like that, Termina is saved from Majora's wrath. The Indiegogos finally perform, Romani practices her bow with Cramia, and of course, Anju and Cafe officially get married. This ending is so saccharine in spite of the game's darker tone. Well, it's mostly a sweet ending. Like I mentioned before, we still see the Deku Butler weeping at the foot of his dead son. The moment really illustrates how truly impossible it is to repair all of the damage caused by Majora. Ultimately, I think it's a wonderful ending fitting for a game like this. But there is another thing that really bugs me about this ending. We never find Navi. You know, the whole reason that we went on this adventure in the first place? As a kid, I knew without a doubt, 100% that she was going to show up in the credits. But she never does. During the events of the game, we learn that Skull Kid was once friends with the four giants that we rescue. During this time, the 4 giants eventually had to leave and lie dormant until the people of Termina needed them again. Skull Kid was lonely and depressed, so he took his anger out on all of Termina. The giants came back and they told Skull Kid that they would tear him apart if he were to cause more harm. Long after this, Skull Kid finds Majora's Mask and falls under its influence. During the ending cutscene, the giants have a moment with Skull Kid where they reassure him that they are still friends. Even if they do return to their slumber and leave Skull Kid, they'll always be friends. I think this story is a great parallel to Link, who begins his own adventure in search for a friend. I like to believe that Link has learned a similar lesson to Skull Kid. Even if he never sees Navi again, their friendship is something that will last forever. And maybe, just maybe, she's been with us the whole time. This has been a very special report from Radio Zelda. This is Radio Zelda, signing off. A huge thank you to my Supernatural supporters over on Patreon. And also a very special thank you to all of my friends that voiced the different characters in this video. I think that they all knocked it out of the park, and it was just super fun to put this video together. You guys don't know anything about them, so I've assigned them all a different mask that encompasses their personality. Make of that what you will, I'm not going to elaborate. And also a big thank you to all of the people that demanded a Majora's Mask video because it gave me the perfect excuse to revisit one of my favorite games of all time. If we want Twilight Princess, just let me know, I'm so down. I've been on a really big Zelda kick lately, and it's been a long time since I've replayed that game. I think like maybe since early college, late high school? It's been a while. In my Ocarina of Time video, I tried guessing at the end what all of the animators and artists watching this video were drawing, and I got it like horribly wrong. Not a single person was like, "Oh, you got me, I was drawing a Deltarune character, oh no." Nobody said that, not a single soul. I think that if you were watching this video while you were drawing something, you were definitely drawing a character from Dispatch. Did I get anyone? I'm really hoping that I got at least like one person, come on. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want me to cover the spooky aspects of another Zelda game, definitely let me know. Or if there's just a game out there that you really want me to talk about, I'm all ears. Now I'm gonna go and see if I can find any of those lost Radio Zelda clips. They gotta be out there somewhere, right? That's all I have for you. Take care.